Hi, and welcome to the show, where we share the stories of the many who intersect with our healthcare system but are rarely heard from. My name is Kevin Poe, founder and editor of Kevin MD. Today on the show, we have Vi Nguyen. She is a pediatrician, and she wrote the Kevin MD article, How Ocean Plastic Picking Made Me a Better Pediatrician. Vi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for having me here. I just feel so privileged to be able to be in your space, and thanks for being so welcoming.
And thank you so much for contributing all the articles to Kevin MD. And we'll certainly talk about one of them later on. Now, we'll get to that in a bit. But first off, can you share your story and your journey to where you are today?
Oh, thank you for asking. Yeah, my name is Vi Nguyen. I'm a second generation Vietnamese American, born and raised in San Diego. I went off to Boston through the Harvard system, was there for 15 years, and came back to Southern California to where I grew up. And in my little home suburban town, I'm a general pediatrician. I'm pretty far along in my career, so I'm assistant chief of pediatrics at Kaiser. Yeah, and the reason why I started blogging was that I actually went through a really hard time personally and professionally about 2 years ago. Went through a period of burnout. I didn't realize it back then, but just a lot of things happened. I had a toddler who died of cancer, actually. These things happen, and another one got diagnosed with a very rare cancer around the same time. And just a lot of work stresses. And yeah, and I just started, I was one of those Southern California kids who never really appreciated the beach, which is why I went off to Boston to train. Live near the beach, so started just walking toward the beach and decided to pick up some trash because the climate youth movement, Greta Thunberg, were on the kind of national scene at that point. And yeah, something weird happened. I just started feeling better, getting exercise, quiet. I started blogging about it, and that's kind of the beginning of the story. I started kind of self-healing and then realized how bad the state of the environment was and thought to myself, wow, I feel better. I should really try to do something to help the kids and the earth because I think it is an existential threat.
So yeah, let's lead into that Kevin MD article, How Ocean Plastic Picking Made Me a Better Pediatrician. Now, for those who haven't read that article or know about your story, can you share a little bit about it and share why you decided to write it?
Yeah, I think I had been actually reading blogs and thought of myself as pretty financially savvy for the last like decade or so. And so I loved the like FIRE blog, so financial independence, retire
Yeah.
early blogs. And we kind of reached our financial independence number. I always tell people like my dad's an accountant, so I'm pretty smart with money. But then I just realized that and I was at this time that I was burnt out as well. And so the question is like, do you throw in the towel?
Hmm.
You know, and I thought to myself, wow, like if I am who I am with as much supports as I have, and I'm burnt out, if I can't make it, who can? And so, and it's funny because I think there was a lot of self wellness and physician wellness was in the national conversation, but it seemed kind of hokey to me because, like, how can you just go to a course and be well, right? Like, you
Hmm.
fundamentally have to deal with the situation. And I was already in management. I was actually controlling the schedules, hiring physicians, talking about, controlling multi-million dollar budgets. And I thought to myself, like, wow, if I throw in the towel, what's going to happen to all the young physicians behind me if I'm not looking out for their well-being? And it's kind of weird, but through the process of self-healing on the beach by just picking up trash, kind of like multitasking, right? I'm getting exercise and picking up trash.
Yeah.
It's really just, I don't know what it was, just fix my brain, fix my thought processes, started
Mm.
sleeping better and becoming more effective. And so the whole point of everything is that rather than leaning out, retreating and quitting, or just not being as much of a doctor as I wanted to be, I actually leaned in and now have like, and I joke around on the blog, but it's true. I've just kind of declared that I'm going to save the earth along with everyone else. Yeah, and it's funny. Everything kind of gelled together. Clinical work became more meaningful. I fundamentally enjoy being a physician again. Like I really connect with my patients more. I listen better. I think that's something that has to do with listening to yourself on the beach and listening to nature.
Hmm.
Management is much easier. I think just because I'm able to communicate a lot better. I've written like over 400 blog posts, and I think communication is so key. And they don't teach you how to be a manager if you're a physician, right? They just throw us in. I think that's why a lot of physician leaders get burnt out. But the department listens to me better just because I'm listening to them, and I tell them I don't know the answer. Let's do it together.
Hmm.
And yeah, and then I've already picked up like 350 bags of trash, and it's more symbolic than anything. But I realize in the environmental space, it's all volunteer, right? Very few of us are paid to be environmentalists. And I've been amazed how one person just being very sincere and honest and kind of checking my ego, I've been able to do a lot just because of committing. And I really feel like the ocean healed me, and it's my turn to kind of heal the earth. I know it sounds hokey, but it really is my story.
So tell me about those walks on the beach because your life really has seemed to turn around after making those trips, after picking up the trash on the beach. So tell me what goes through your mind as you're walking on the beach, and what kind of healing thoughts did you have?
It's funny, I tell people like you have to really try it, right? And I think some of the our background as in our training as physicians, like we know that stuff, right? We know about physiology. I
Mm-hmm.
actually trained in pediatric endocrine, so I know about stress hormones and cortisol, circadian rhythm and thyroid, and actually did research in a sleep. I didn't even realize it was all related, but I actually worked at an NIH sleep clinic. I did research on depressive women and bone density and sleep. And it's kind of when research is you have this little niche area,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And so kind of did the typical thing a lot of young physicians do. And then when I started walking on the beach, I realized it's all related because I didn't know what was happening, but I felt better. And what goes through my mind is that I have a destination to run to rather than just being a runner, right? I'd been a runner for like 30 years. So rather than just kind of run for time or training for a half marathon, I ran to the beach. And then I go when it's totally quiet, no one's there. I go really early, like 5, 5:30, 6 o'clock. And I go on the same stretch of beach. I think because I live near a college town, the kids like litter a lot. So there's always trash. I walk from Crystal Pier to Tourmaline where the surfers are. And we're actually a marine protected area, so it's beautiful. There's a lot of endangered birds. There's always surfers early in the morning. And it's just super quiet. It's just me and my time and my own mind and my thoughts, and you have to kind of really concentrate on little pieces of glistening plastic. And my goal is not like amount, and every day it's different, but I just like fill a bag and bring recyclables home. And there's something about slowing your mind. I think with social media, and we had gotten iPhones at work where we were always on, especially as management, I was always on and not sleeping well, my back hurt, just all these middle age issues. And then I think going to the ocean and hearing the waves and seeing the birds, literally time slows down, like
Mm-hmm.
literally slows down, and your mind slows down. And I think that's what happened. I got exercise, like, and I slept better. I think because there's this idea of circadian rhythm in terms of your body being in tune with the sun and moon, and there is something to it. And yeah, and it's funny because my husband, and we're a 2MD family, and my husband, I always tell him like he's the last one to kind of, if I can convince him, I can convince anyone. And so, yeah, and it's this cascading effect because I start feeling better with every walk, and started incorporating a lot of things that a lot of sustainable people kind of incorporate more plant-based eating, minimalism, not buying things, kind of turning things off. Like I'm actually more on social media, but I use it as a tool rather than just mindlessly consuming it. And I can say the cascading effects in my own family and actually my whole department and my patients is amazing because it really is this idea of like, we are just part of this large community. And that's really given me a lot of strength. And actually, it's funny, I write about him a lot, and we've been together for a long time. And it's hard to be two MDs together, kind of balancing family and raising kids that are okay. And when I read him something or kind of have a thought and he kind of sees it, I'm like, gosh, I'm on the right path.
How long would each of these walks be, and how often would you go?
Oh, so initially it's funny. Because I had wanted, I'm kind of like a personal finance blogger, but not because I'm
Mm-hmm.
on Crispy Docs, like blog roll, whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
I like to keep track of things. It's kind of weird, but it's my blog is like I keep track of exact number of bags, exact number of items I picked up. So I picked up about 300. I think calculated today 365 bags a day. Items is about 100, 1,400 items. And so initially I had to pick up a lot, I think because I needed to pick up more because I was kind of self-healing. And
Sure.
so now I'm actually in a very beautiful part in life where I don't think I really need to go over there for the exercise, but I commit to doing at least 20 bags a month.
Mm-hmm.
And before I used to do like 50, right? Now I do like 20 bags at least because I do a lot of other environmental stuff. And so, yeah, I just go whenever I know I don't have. That's the nice thing about this plastic picking or litter picking. If I don't pick it up, no one else does. So there's no like pressure, right? Because it's just gonna sit there. And
Yep.
literally, I've jogged by the same can 5 times just for fun, and
Hmm.
like no one picked it up, you know.
Sure.
So I usually walk, so it can go anywhere from usually at least 45 minutes. Jog to the beach, pick up trash, come back. On the weekends, I go longer. So I really have a great time and walk up and down the coast. I mean, I live in a nice, a very beautiful part of the world. And those days, it could be up to like 2 hours.
Hmm.
So that's whatever the body, my body tells me I need. But I usually go at least 3 times a week, if not sometimes five, depending how busy things are.
So you also blog about your experiences at Dr. Plastic Picker. Now, you said you had over 400 entries, which is a huge amount for a blog. So what kind of stories do you share on your site?
It was kind of a roundabout thing. I started picking up plastic and doing litter picking and kind of committing to the environmental movement. I started writing about it, and it was this whole other part of myself I didn't realize that I had wanted to tap into.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I've always like my sister. She has a podcast. She's a very. I mean, I admire her a lot. My younger sister is like an attorney and trying to change the world and everything. And she always reminded me, she's like, you used to journal all the time. I said,
Hmm.
oh, yeah, you're right. Like when I was a little kid, I would journal. So pretty much my blog is just my journal. And I don't purposely look for a lot of followers
Hmm.
or, I'm just kind of, it's so funny. Sometimes the blogging can be very painful, right?
Hmm.
Emotionally. So
Hmm.
I really put it out there in a very supportive way, really just for my patients. And other people have since come onto the blog and read it. I try to be mindful of what I share about my family, but my family is part of my life. And
Hmm.
my kids have made me who I am, right? Because I think as a pediatrician, as we go through parenting and motherhood, it changes how we practice. And so I pretty much just blog about what I do. It's just kind
Hmm.
of random. Yeah, and it's kind of weird. Like I oddly enjoy it. It's helped me in my career quite a bit because when I send emails out or when I go to a meeting, I'm able to effectively communicate my opinions very clearly and sometimes irreverently, which is funny. I think people like what I realize is people kind of accept ideas and opinions if it's not threatening.
Hmm.
So I think as a woman physician, before I thought I had to be more abrasive, more man-like because I came up in the ranks when there weren't a lot of women leaders,
Hmm.
and now that I'm in my mid 40s, it's kind of like I get a lot more just by being funny and just doing things, and kind of talking about trash because it does all relate, right? Because
Sure.
the when you manage a department or anything, it's about efficiency, and that's what drives me crazy about plastic. It's so inefficient.
Hmm.
The whole process of plastic is inefficient. And so, like an example for peds, what I realized, if I can get every kid to eat more vegetables that's unprocessed, it's cheaper for the family, cheaper for the planet, less plastic for me to pick up, and the kids are better, right? And
Hmm.
so it's all kind of related into this idea of like my management work and the earth and everything. But sometimes I'm usually at work, I'm not tangential, but in my blog, I'm
Sure.
tangential. But yeah, so it's really fun. The funniest thing is my most popular blog post has nothing to do with the environment
Hmm.
because how you can track it, right? Like I wrote a fan fiction about Star Trek.
Yeah.
That thing gets like 1,000 hits. Like
There you
it's crazy, and I'm like, it's so funny. And that one, like, I'm like, so whenever this is over, I'll make it a Star Trek fan.
go.
So, yeah, I
Now,
dressed up my dog like a Vulcan, so it got a lot of likes.
so what has some of the responses been from, say, your clinician colleagues to some of the adventures that you have on the beach and the plastic picking initiative? So what are some of the responses that you get from your colleagues?
I think it's interesting. I think when you're at a point of, because I referred to it before, this time of burnout, right? And I
Yeah.
think when you're at a place of true pain and not darkness, but like when you're really hurt, it can't get worse, right? And like literally, I was like, do I just throw it all in and just be a stay-at-home mom now that my kids are already grown? I mean, just is ridiculous, right? And like questioning my abilities, or not my abilities, but questioning how long I have in my career. And so I think kind of initially I hadn't blended it together, right? It was supposed to be semi-anonymous. Nothing's really anonymous. You can
Hmm.
Google it, it comes up, but what has been so heartwarming for me is that the response has been phenomenal, like just so supportive throughout the
Hmm.
whole organization. Like, and what I realize is that a lot of physician burnout issues, or because I'm HR, right? So I deal with a lot of management issues. It's
Sure.
hard to look at a colleague and say, there was this error that happened and there was this clinical outcome, now you have this thing on your record, or it's just, you deal with all these issues like sick call, da 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 da, like what is sick call, who should take sick call,
Hmm.
whatever. It's just ridiculous. And I think my being very vulnerable and sharing these things and my own struggles when I was a younger physician, it's made me more understanding of other people. It's funny, I fundamentally don't judge as much. I actually took another personality test, and my personality, Bristol Myers, whatever it's called, shifted.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, and so I think the response has been heartwarming. I really, and initially it was just kind of my colleagues that slowly kind of found out,
Sure.
and my patients and the families I take care of. I mean, they're the ones who join me on the beach when we do group beach cleans. And I think the most beautiful part is that medicine is so commercialized, right? There's so many layers between us and the patient. We're no longer the small family doc anymore in this small town. But just by saying, hey, join us on the beach, let's go do a beach clean, I do it really easy. Like I'm like 1 hour, right? I get breakfast for people
Hmm.
from Costco. That's like hopefully vegan, not a lot of plastic. People come up, I get grabbers from the local NGO that lets us use their stuff. And we just pick like
Hmm.
really quick, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. But there's something about being together as a community, and seeing each other in the light of the like real world and outside the walls of the office, and not literally like I used to look at a patient and kind of see their medical record. I mean, right? Because you
Right.
use EMR,
Hmm.
you like see their med list, their you know drug interactions and all this other stuff. But now, having seen so many patients on social media and just picking trash together, like I see them differently. And medicine truly is holistic, right? so
Hmm.
so it changed the way I even approach constipation. I mean, it's such a simple thing, right? But it drives us crazy. We see a lot of constipation in pediatrics, right? The
Sure.
kids are just constipated, and it's like this revolving door. They come in, I mean, to the point that the kids are have anal prolapse in the rectal prolapse in the ED.
Mm.
And then, as a pediatrician for like 15 years, I'm like, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of it. Like, I'm just going to deal with it. So, like, literally at the 4 month visit, I say, let's sit and talk about it. Let's
Hmm.
really sit and talk about fiber, because I don't want to deal with the stuff on the beach. I'd rather just walk without picking up trash. And also, now I know that I'm the answer, right?
Sure.
Just like I'm the answer to picking up trash. For my patients, I'm not like, I don't really need to save the world. I can show people how to do it. But for my patients, that's my problem. And some of it, even though I'm in management, I realize that management is not the answer, right? Like we
Hmm.
can't solve everything. Like we can't fix everything for everyone.
Sure.
And so now I approach patient care in a fundamentally different way, and I take the time. And it's funny how it all works out. I still finish on time just because my mind is more clear, and I just zero in on the issue. Like, patients come, they have like a list of 10 things, but
Yeah.
really it's just one thing, right? And if I can deal with the one thing, or sometimes I just listen to them,
Hmm.
and I realize they're not going to listen to me, which is fine. I said, okay, let's just move on, and we'll deal with it when they're ready to receive the message.
Sure.
And yeah, so it's been like very amazing. And I think for us, like as physicians, we have to stay in management. We have to stay in the conversation, because if we don't,
Hmm.
you're gonna have a bunch of MBAs, bunch of
Yeah.
non-clinical people who don't have that tactile, that emotional, moral responsibility to patients making decisions. And so for me, like I feel like I sit there, I'm like, try to just every decision, right or wrong, pick it up or not pick it up, you know.
Hmm.
And being financially independent helps. It does.
Sure.
It's like sometimes I joke around, I'm like, I walk. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Like I can go back to clinic. I fundamentally love patient care. So if I lose my management job, whatever, you know.
Sure. We're talking to Vi Nguyen. She is a pediatrician, and she wrote the Kevin MD article, How Ocean Plastic Picking Made Me a Better Pediatrician. Vi, for those clinicians who want to be more involved with climate action, what are some actionable things that they can do to do so?
I think you have so much power and social influence. I really want to thank you for putting yourself out there. I think it's kind of hard to, it's kind of weird, right? Someone picks up trash, like put them on your blog, right? And I think that if there's anyone out there who is curious about the environment, who wants to work on the environment, what I can say as someone who's deep into the environmental movement now is that there are not enough people. Like
Hmm.
that as an MD, you don't need a master's in anything, you don't need any special anything. By virtue of you being a physician, you are an influencer. Like, it's crazy, right? Like, part of the reason I got into social media is because I saw the Kardashians and I said,
Hmm.
wow, why do people listen to them? They should listen to me. Like, I'm their doctor, right?
Hmm.
And I think that you, as a physician, if you want to get involved in the climate movement, there's tons of opportunities. Definitely reach out to me. There's Physicians for Sustainable Future Facebook group, which is like this great melding of a lot of minds together. There's Physicians for Social Responsibility. There's Healthcare Without Harm. The American Academy of Pediatrics is very active, and so lots of venues. And just like with anything, you'll find your niche, whatever it is. Like I found mine through picking up trash and blogging and making trash art. It's weird, but there's a place for me. And
Hmm.
whoever you are, whatever field you are, there's a place for you. And environmentalists, I can tell you, are so nice. Vegans are so accepting. So I can't tell you of a more positive community. And it seems kind of crazy, but I switched over to this non-plastic shampoo just because I wanted to reduce plastic,
Hmm.
and my hair is great now. I don't know why, but and people see it and they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I just became an environmentalist and my hair looks great." And and I get a lot more people coming into the environment movement because of my hair than anything. So
Sure.
that's it.
And my final question, what's your take-home message that you want to leave with the Kevin MD audience?
Since the Kevin MD audience is so large and diverse, and there's some who are into the environmental movement or not, my message would be just take care of yourself. You know, whoever you are as a doctor, you are doing good. Just, yeah, take care of yourself. Take that time to sleep, take that time to be with your family. Because in the end, your role as an MD, you can be replaced, right? But your role as a person, as a mother, as a father, as a son, as a daughter, you can't. And I think it took me like almost 15 years into my career to realize that. And yeah, so just take care of yourself. That would be my message.
That's well said. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time, story, and insight. And thanks again for being on the show.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin, and I hope you take care of yourself too during this last surge.